to really speak the truth to somebody. And the temple president said, everyone here in my temple perfectly hears the truth from their guru. That's very difficult. So when we hear the truth, we're all saying, I want the absolute truth. Yes, I want the absolute truth. So when we hear the truth, we should be grateful. Even if the truth isn't always pleasing to our false ego. How can the truth be pleasing to our false ego? That's a contradiction in terms. Our false ego is false. How can the truth be in harmony with something that's false? The truth will be your false ego is false. Not your false ego is very nice. So for that we should feel gratitude. We should feel gratitude for the physician's surgery, bitter medicine, stringent diet and exercise program, and for cutting apart what's false in us. Ravindra Swarupu has a wonderful outline, calls it japa, on his blog. And he says, as our anarthas are being destroyed, at first we find it very painful because what's happening is the false ego is being dismantled. And we think, that's me. That's why we're all afraid of death, you know. I mean, there's no such thing as death. It's just changing clothes. Why are we so afraid of death? Because death dismantles this particular identity. Everything we've built up. I'm this person's child, I'm this person's wife, husband, mother, father, friend, brother, sister. I have this education, I've done all of our memories. This is who I am. Our identity is our memories. And you lose your memory, like, well, who am I? And we're all afraid. Who will I be? This whole little thing I built up will be dismantled. So when the false ego is being dismantled, we fight against it. No, this is who I am. And gradually it becomes ecstatic. Because we start to get who we really are. Chaitya, Dharma, and Marjana, we start to see our actual self. And our actual self is a lot nicer than our false identity. It's much more pleasing. So it turns from being miserable to being delightful. Just like a good cure. If you have a disease, in the beginning the cure may be painful, and after a while the cure becomes delightful because you become healthy. You have to go through the difficult process first. And how happy Guru and Krishna will be if we're grateful for the chastisements and for the difficulty. How happy they would be. How much we wanted little Tarini to say, thank you, Mommy and Daddy, for giving me this medicine, which she never did. But how happy we would be. So that's what Krishna would like to see from us. That when there's difficulty, we say, thank you, Lord. We offer more obeisances to the Lord. Not like, oh, okay, I guess I still have to worship you. I mean, we thank Krishna when he does the things that we like. Right? So to thank Krishna, thank you, dear Lord, for taking this away. Thank you, dear Lord, for smashing my false ego. And just doing that, Daiva, just doing that, we get our rightful inheritance. So you can understand how difficult it must be to have that mood. Now what about the other way? When somebody apparently offends us or disrespects us. What his brothers did to Narada was quite disrespectful. I mean, just putting aside that he's Narada, that he's a sadhu, for anybody, it would be disrespectful, isn't it? I mean, of course, nowadays, people engaging in naked sexual activities on the street is considered almost normal. You know, we've almost come to an animal society, especially here. You know, I remember years ago taking a walk in Soho Square, and there was one girl who she cut her hair really, really short, and she dyed it yellow with brown spots like leopard. She looked like a leopard. I thought, yeah, they're really preparing for their next body. Trying to look, or they pierced. I've seen one person on the street here had her cheeks pierced with silver fangs coming out of her cheeks. So they're already becoming animals in their human body, and as animals, then they can do whatever, anywhere, with anybody, anyhow. You know. We're not supposed to be offended by that, but it's offensive. It's definitely offensive. I mean, you see in a culture like India, even husband and wife don't hold hands in public. That's considered disrespectful. It's very disrespectful. Have some shame. And if people disrespect us, we generally become angry. We want to punish them. At least we yell at them. Or we complain about them to somebody else. We want something bad to happen to them. So therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was asking, why did Narada become that? So if we really want to become ourselves free of the modes of material nature, and we really want to become such that Krishna will want to see us, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says, then we also have to be representatives of Krishna, which means that we always think to do good to others. We always think of others' welfare. And this is not easy. It's very easy for people who are nice to us. It's not easy when people are not nice to us. To think about their welfare instead of my feelings and how I should be treated. I mean, of course we say, Trinadapi should be lower than the grass and more tolerant than the tree. We should not care about our own respect. I might have talked about this before here. How do you get to the point that you don't care whether or not people disrespect you? It's interesting with Jed Bharat when Maharaj Rahugana was insulting him. And if you read the insult, it didn't seem to me that it was that huge of an insult. Of course, it's kind of hard to tell what the king's tone of voice was. Who are you? What are you? You're just some skinny guy. I can understand why you're not carrying the palanquin, right? And it says at the end of the section that Jed Bharat felt some disturbance in his mind for being insulted like that. Which is really interesting because Maharaj Rahugana was the first person he spoke to in that whole life. When he had taken birth in the family of a Brahmin after becoming a deer, he had decided, I'm not going to get attached to anybody in this world. Nobody, not even my family members. And he didn't even talk to his parents. And he intentionally did everything backwards. He'd wash his hands before passing stool. He couldn't learn the Gayatri mantra, and his father kept trying to teach him. But he was just, no, I'm going to act like I'm a foolish person. And then his stepbrothers were so rude to him, they made him act as a scarecrow out in the field. If you guys think sometimes you get a hard job here in the temple. And they would only feed him worm-eaten food. And he never complained. Never. Thought whatever I get, I get. Whatever food I get. Whatever job I'm asked to do, I just do. And then he was captured by dacoits because he's standing out in the field guarding the crops like a scarecrow. And these dacoits thought that he was like an animal. And they thought, well, the Vedas say you should sacrifice an animal to Kali. We'll do better at sacrificing a human, which is not in the Vedas. So they took him to, and he was also undisturbed. They were going to kill him in front of Goddess Kali. He thought, Mari Krishna, Rake Krishna, Mari Ke, it's all right, whatever Krishna wants. He wasn't disturbed. But somehow or other, when this king insulted him, he became disturbed. But it said he tolerated that disturbance. And instead he tried to do good to the king. He spoke words of instruction to the king for the king's benefit. He broke his own vow of silence. He broke his own determination that I'm not going to deal with anyone in the world just to benefit this person.